Hello friends, and welcome to today's episode. The doctor put down her tools and took another look at the results. She had looked at them several times, and the ultrasound confirmed it, but she had never seen anything like this in all her years as a vet. She had a lot of questions, but one thing she knew for sure was that this dog needed help right away. Chris and Mariessa went to many animal shelters in search of a dog to adopt. They knew there was someone out there for them, but it was hard to find them. She had told Chris that they would only get one dog, but when she saw the pregnant dog looking sad, she knew what she had to do. The dog came over as soon as she saw them and started licking their hands. Her huge belly was full of puppies, and Mariessa knew she needed a good, caring home. It was clear that she and Chris would get this dog, but they didn't know what they were about to find out, which would change everything. Chris and Mariessa would soon find out that the dog's life wasn't just sad because she was pregnant in a rescue. Story: the pit bull used to belong to a person who had a backyard breeding business. But when they saw how much it would cost to house, feed, and care for her and her puppies, they decided to leave her at the rescue instead. As Mariessa heard the sad story, she couldn't help but cry. The couple knew right away that this dog needed a good home and that she earned all the love in the world, especially after what she had been through. It was clear that a dog in her shape didn't belong at the rescue. They took her in right away in order to give her a better life. But a trip to the vet would make everything different. Chris and Mariessa both liked pit bull, as if things weren't already great enough. They had already saved a few other pit bulls because they loved the breed. If you were asking how many dogs they have at least 10 pit bulls right now. A good bed is important for a dog, but Chris and Mariessa have so many dogs that they are running out of room. Chris built a mega bed for the dogs that was 7 feet wide and 14 feet long to solve this problem. He told Today, at night, all the dogs want to sleep on the bed, and sometimes it gets too crowded, so we end up getting pushed off the bed and sleeping on the couch. So we built the mega bed. The couple loves pit bulls and knows there is more they can do for them because they are a breed that is not well known. There are a lot of rules about having a pit bull. In some places, they are even against the law. Even though the couple knew a lot about this type of dog, even they weren't ready for what was about to happen. No one did. Mariessa has said that she has broken up with partners in the past because they didn't understand or back her love of dogs. Chris, on the other hand, not only understood her idea and backed it, but he also shared it with her. Not only did they love each other, but they also loved dogs. It seemed like they were meant to be together. The more they were with each other, the more they loved dogs. The couple loves dogs, so it might seem strange that they would have second thoughts. Why did they then? Animal shelters all over the world have to deal with more than just not having enough money. Every shelter wants to be able to take care of all the animals they take in, but that's just not possible. Chris and Mariessa were shocked by how many pit bulls they saw at Pibbles and More Animal Rescue. They didn't know that one of these pit bulls was about to make a big difference in their lives. Pit bull has a very bad name, which is a shame. People think they are much more violent than they really are because they are big and stocky. This, along with the rules that make it hard to own a pit bull, is one reason why so many of them end up in shelters. The couple already knew that these dogs had a bad name. They knew how these dogs really were. Because of this, they had taken in many pit bulls in the past as their money and time allowed. They had never seen anything wrong with their own dogs that would make people think they were bad. They could never have known what would happen. Studies have not found any proof to back up the bad image, despite what many people think. As with any other breed, how the animal was raised is the most important thing. Pit bulls don't have a higher tendency to be aggressive than, say, Labradors. But Story was about to change everything they knew and thought they knew about pit bulls. When the couple was filling out the paperwork to adopt Story, they were told that she was about to give birth. In fact, she had already been waiting too long. No one knew why she hadn't given birth yet, even though it was clear that she was ready. No one really knew what was going on because it was so confusing. The couple knew how dangerous this situation could be and that they might have to choose between saving the dog and her future pups or letting them die. It was a big choice, and the two people knew they couldn't make it quickly. But there wasn't much time to do that. The stakes made things even worse. Even though time was running out, the pair knew they needed to talk for a minute. They couldn't just rush in without thinking, but they also couldn't do nothing. Story did something while they were talking that made the choice for them. She went up to them quietly, put her head on Mari's knee, and looked at her with a sad face. Mari was happy to bring Story home, but she knew things were going to be hard. It wasn't just that they got a new family member. It could have been more important. Even though Mari was having a hard time, good news was just around the corner. News that made even more changes. Even though they knew that if they kept Story, they would have to care for 10 more dogs, they didn't want the pregnant dog mom to stay at the shelter any longer than she has to. Mari wanted to help Story and make sure she had a safe place to give birth. The couple started talking about it and figuring out what would be good and bad about taking Story home. It was clear that it wasn't a good plan, but Chris came up with an idea that made perfect sense for the case. It seemed like their best option, both for their family and for Story and the dogs. He said they should take care of Story and her kids. But this was only going to be for a short time. The animal rescue team was going to look for permanent homes for them. This was a good thought, since they already had 8 dogs and couldn't afford any more. The idea was great, but that was not the end of the troubles. They still had to figure out what was wrong with the pregnancy. Why hadn't Story given birth yet, even though she was almost ready to burst? The next thing they had to do was this. They needed to pay attention to the pregnancy as much as it needed. This was the first time anything like this happened to them. There must be a reason why Story couldn't or wouldn't have the kids. Chris and Mari were worried about it, so they went online to look for a way to solve the problem. Did they find anything that was important? They didn't find a lot of comforting things online, which was a shame. In fact, when they left, they were even more worried about what was going on. Well, this is what usually happens when you search online for answers. Chris and Mari were worried about the situation even more. Most of the time, people tend to forget how smart most animals really are. Mari and Chris looked for answers and found out why a dog might not want to give birth to her puppies. Even better, they found a source that seemed to explain everything exactly. So, what did they find out? Research showed that animals in rescue centers often go through a lot of stress and even trauma. Of course, this is more likely to happen to dogs that are pregnant. Shelters are meant to help animals in need, but they fill up very quickly. A pregnant dog shouldn't be in a place with a lot of people. Chris and Mari's loving home can make a big difference. Chris and Mari started learning more about the situation and realized that things could get worse. Story might have lost 1 or more of her pups. Not only that, but she could die as well. No way did they know how bad things were. Can you believe this isn't everything? Mari found out that pregnant dogs who go through stress worry so much about their puppies that they might decide not to give birth at all. People end up in this position because they think the babies will be in danger. Chris and Mari could see that things were getting dangerous. The pregnant dog had to go to the vet as soon as possible. It was important to do this if they wanted to make sure the kids were safe. Back in the car, they drove to the closest vet. The vet gave the dog an ultrasound, but she was shocked by what she saw. She gave a head shake. How could something like this happen? One way or another, there must have been a mistake. But neither the forms nor the numbers in the results changed or went away. It was true. What she saw there would change things for the pair and everyone else involved. Then Mari noticed that something wasn't right. What happened? Before telling the news, the veterinarian took a big breath. She went into detail about what was wrong with Story's belly. They had thought there would be 6 puppies, but the MRI didn't show that. The vet pointed out the shapes and helped the couple count them. Then Chris and Mari found out what was going on. Now, they were also shocked. They were told that Story would have 6 puppies, but the ultrasound showed that this was not true. What did it look like? Even the vet didn't expect this. She tried again to count. After that, she gave it one more try. Every time, the same thing would happen. Finally, she realized that she had to tell them what it was. Chris and Mari thought they were going to have 6 puppies, but the vet knew this wasn't right. The dog was pregnant with not 6 but 12 pups. Yes, they got twice as many dogs as they thought they would. In any case, Story was carrying 12 pups. How did they plan to get out of this mess? The couple was shocked by what they had just heard. What could have caused this? Even 6 dogs seemed like too many, but 12. It was clear that the problem was even worse than they thought at first. Would Story be all right? She had 12 babies. Was she going to give birth to all of them? Let us find out. The vet didn't know why Story hadn't had her big litter of puppies yet. At least, the ultrasounds showed her that all of the pups were healthy. How wonderful! What did they do next? The vet said that they should go home and get ready for the baby to be born. After 48 hours, if Story still hadn't given birth, they should come back for another checkup. Chris and Mariessa didn't know it at the time, but Story had a great reason to wait. You can probably guess how stressed out Chris and Mariessa were at that time. Story was in danger of losing not just 6 kids, but all 12 of them. They couldn't help but worry about what would happen in the next 48 hours. Would Story be okay if she didn't have the puppies in that time frame? It's easy to see that this was both a dangerous and horrible scenario, but it seemed like there was nothing they could do to help Story. All that remained was to make her feel at home. When they got home, Mariessa thought of a good idea. Chris and Mariessa had already read a lot of pieces about trauma and worry by that time. They knew how hard Story's life had been. They tried to help her by giving her a place that was very welcoming. Mariessa picked a place in a spare room. She even gave the dog beds and blankets. After that, they showed Story her new home and hoped that everything would go well. Chris and Mariessa worked hard because they wanted it to be perfect for the dog. They even kept track of how loud the room was and how hot it was. The couple had no idea that something amazing was about to happen. Both of them went to bed for the night, and when they woke up, they went to see how Story was doing. They wanted to check on her to see if she was feeling better and more at ease. As Mariessa and Chris were walking toward the room where they had left the pit bull, they heard some strange sounds. They moved quickly and went into the bedroom. They were not expecting to see what they did. They went into the extra room. To their surprise, they found Story and her 12 cute puppies in there. She was able to give birth to all of them while they both slept. What a wonderful thing to see. Mariessa and Chris were so upset by what they saw that they had to cry. Who would have thought that Story would finally have the babies? They were very happy. They soon found out why she had taken so long. When dogs give birth at the shelter, it can be hard on both the mom and the kids. Story knew that the shelter was not a good place to have a baby because of the way it was set up. She chose to wait for someone like Chris and Mariessa because of this. Isn't it amazing that Story only needed to hang out with Chris and Mariessa for a day, or even less, to feel comfortable around them? She felt so at home that she even had her puppies there. The fact that no one knows what was going on made it even more interesting. Good job, Story. When it came to taking care of the puppies, Story did a great job. Well, what did you think the best dog mom in the world would do next? It didn't take long for people to start putting in applications to adopt the dogs. The couple knew they wouldn't be able to keep the puppies for very long. How did Story feel about letting the puppies go? The puppies finally opened their eyes after a few weeks. Mariessa and Chris were having a great time playing with the puppies. The babies played with each other and took over the yard. You know what it's like to have a puppy. Story was glad to have her puppies all with her. They had to say goodbye, which was sad. When Story was taken to a safe place, she was able to let her body do the work and have her kids. This is how she got to meet all 12 of the puppies. But what would happen to her and the kids next? Let us find out. Story seems to have known exactly what she needed to do to have her babies. All she wanted was to feel safe and protected. The foster couple gave her these things, and that's how she had her 12 healthy pups. She is one smart dog for sure. It's amazing that they were able to find foster parents who would take the puppies in when they were 10 weeks old. Chris and Mariessa may have loved the babies, but they couldn't afford to keep them. They were sad that they had to give them up for adoption. Even though it broke my heart, it was the right thing to do. The puppies went to their new homes when they were 10 weeks old. We are happy to hear that, but what will happen to Story? Everyone was taking care of the puppies now, but what about their mother? After putting her life at risk for her kids, this amazing mother deserves the best. It doesn't come as much of a surprise that the story spread like wildfire after it was shared on Facebook. Someone was moved by Story's story and fell in love with her right away. The man then got in touch with Chris and Mariessa to set up a meeting. He wanted to meet this beautiful dog and see what would happen next. What was he talking about? He ended up loving Story even more, so he chose to take her with him. Story has finally found the place she will live for the rest of her life. Then she and the other puppies were taken to their wonderful new homes. Not only that, but she also got fixed so that she wouldn't have any more big litters. Let's hope she never has to go through anything like that again. Even though Story had a lot of puppies, she made sure to give each one the love and care they needed. She was the perfect mom when she was still living with them. Aren't you happy to hear something so nice? Chris and Mariessa were both happy and proud that Story had done something so impressive. She even cleaned and cared for the puppies while she waited for them to get well. The couple didn't get to spend much more time with them, which was sad. All 12 puppies went to loving homes where they will stay for the rest of their lives. They are happy about this because now they will never run out of love and care. Story stayed with Chris and Mariessa until each of the puppies was taken. Her feelings as a mother are still as strong as ever. If Mariessa and Chris hadn't decided to take a chance on her, she and the babies would have been in a lot of trouble. We're glad they took a chance on the very pregnant dog they found at the overcrowded animal refuge. If not, things would have ended in a much more sad way. Even though Story's story ended with a happy ending, there are a lot of dogs who will never find a forever home. Most of the time, shelters need a lot of help to take care of the animals well. If you can't foster a dog for some reason, there are other things you can do to help. Of course, if you can, getting a new dog is always a good idea. You can also give money to the shelter or rescue home or tell people about it. Even though these might seem like small things, they will help the shelter workers a lot. Mariessa and Chris started a non-profit group that takes care of old and sick dogs. The Mr. Mo Project is what it is called. These dogs have a high chance of being put down, so the couple wants to find places where they could live for the rest of their lives. The project also pays for health care and daily living costs. On the other hand, the hospice houses give care and love. If you can adopt or foster dogs, keep this story in mind at all times. Don't worry if you don't think you have enough beds for all the dogs you wanted to take in. If that ever happens to you, try to do what Mariessa and Chris did. Even though the normal length of a king bed is 6.6 feet, theirs is almost twice as long. This is something you could think about. You should know by now that Mariessa and Chris love dogs more than anyone else. That's it for today, friends. Please let us know what you think about this story. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon for more amazing stories.